And to Kenya, where authorities have arrested Richard Ndubai, who is the head of the National Youth Service, and several others as part of an investigation into the theft of nearly $100 million. Now, the move to hold officials to account for graft is a rare one in a country where corruption is widespread. President Uhuru Kenyatta pledged to stamp out the vice when he was first elected in 2013, but critics say he has been slow to pursue state officials. Now, in 2016, the former head of Kenya's anti-graft agency said the country was losing a third of its budget. That's about $6 billion to corruption every year. And joining us in the studio to discuss this further is Edward Kusewa. He's an economist and lecturer at St. Paul's University here in Kenya. Very welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
Last we heard, actually, today, is that at least 15 suspects have been arrested in the looting of almost $100 million at the National Youth Service. So is this finally a sign for you that the government is cracking down on corruption?
Let us say that, of course, it is a sign it is a move in the right direction. But you must understand that corruption has gone unabated for quite a very long time. And it just doesn't involve 15 officials. It involves a lot of government institutions. It involves the Ministry of Finance. It involves the central bank. Those are the people who have been dispensing that money. So there's a lot of chain that needs to be taken care of. And also getting back the money that has been looted back to the treasury.
Now, as you mentioned, it's not just the NYS scandal. Quite a number of government institutions involved in it. The Youth Enterprise Development Fund, the National Cereals and Produce Board, they're facing similar scandals. Are you confident that the government, in the government's commitment to investigate and certainly bring those state officials involved to book?
I mean, if we can go with the past analysis, trend analysis of the past, maybe 7, 8 years since the Jubilee government took power, we haven't seen a lot of commitment from the government to take care of corruption, and especially now that it has become runaway corruption. But obviously there are concerns, and maybe the government is starting to raise eyebrows because the public is much more aware of what is happening. But we must look at the past. No prosecutions have been done so far in this country, so we cannot confidently say that there's political goodwill from the government.
Now, give me a sense of whether you think, why you think there is no political will to fight this, because the public suddenly feels, as you're saying, that anti-graft agencies, they failed to charge and convict these offending officials.
I mean, if you look at the amount of money that is being talked about, it's more than 100 billion shillings. This is not little money. This is not money that just passes by government, small government officers at the lower level. The executive must be fully aware of what is happening. I mean, we have been borrowing money from, external borrowers. That is actually little than the money that has been stolen. So there's a big disconnect that we are borrowing money and we are losing money. So the executive really must be aware of what has been happening. And I think there's not a lot of political will to fight this vice. Yeah.
Now, of course, we hear that some Kenyans are planning to take to the street this week and certainly protest what they call the normalization of corruption in the country. In your opinion, what would it take to fix this issue? What would it take to stop the theft of funds and certainly this normalization of corruption?
I think the public financial management system and the public financial management reforms need to go ahead and seriously. I mean, we have systems that are being broken into and money is being stolen from these systems. I think we need an overhaul of that whole public financial management system and look into areas where there are gaps and where there are leakages. And indeed, it's good for the citizens to go into the street. I mean, this is their money. This is part of the taxpayers' money that is getting stolen. And anyway, part of this money would have been used in a lot of development expenditure. So actually, the economy is bleeding from the fact that a lot of money is being lost and is not accounted for.
Well, many thanks for joining us and many thanks for giving us your insights. Of course, that was economist Edward Kusewa joining us here in the studio.